In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we are coloring conversations on the canvas of America. Tonight, our special guest is none other than Mr. Gregg. At just 17 years old, while still a junior in high school, Gregg was sentenced to 20 years in prison, a life-altering moment that tested his resilience and ultimately redefined his purpose. Today, as a full-time student at Fayetteville State University, Casey is transforming that pivotal chapter into a powerful story of empowerment, healing, and hope. He is the founder and president of More Visions Empowerment, a transformative initiative dedicated to social, emotional learning, restorative practice circles, and re-entry programs. Focused on youth aged 13 to 25, More Visions empowers young people to reclaim their narratives, heal from trauma, and thrive within their communities. As a speaker and community advocate, Casey draws from his lived experiences to build trust, spark dialogue, and inspire action. His voice resonates with authenticity and urgency, reminding audiences that past mistakes do not define one's future. Through intentional support and healing-centered engagement, Casey champions the belief that every individual has the power to rewrite their story and become a force for positive change. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring to the show Mr. Gregg. Hello, sir.
How you doing, sir? Thank you for having me, man. That was an awesome introduction, man.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add to your bio before we get going?
No, I think you all knocked that one out the park, man. I think that you did amazing, awesome. All those words ring true. Yeah, so that was good enough for me, brother.
So tell us a little bit about your story and what happened here in your youthful times here as you were coming up.
Yeah, man, pretty much, man. As a junior in high school, with the wrong crowd, coming from that environment, you find myself in a crazy situation where I reacted a little too quick, and individual lost their life, and another one almost lost his life, and ultimately I ended up with 20 years in prison. Went through that process, and now I'm home. That's pretty much the backstory. Just like most of our youngins, most of our kids that end up in these situations, it be in the environment. So just fell to a toxic environment and kind of repeating the same behaviors that I saw around me, and that's pretty much what happened. But we all go through them phases where I call them growing pains. I don't look at it as nothing negative. I used to always look at it. It was sharpening me, refining me in a space where as though I needed to grow so I can get out here and impact and live through purpose.
So how did being sentenced to 20 years in prison shape your understanding of justice and identity?
First, it helped me understand that I wasn't the only one going through the situation, but also I realized that once I got there, there were so many other Black men that was there. That was the biggest thing for me, and I wasn't the only one there. For some reason, I felt like I was going to be the only youngest guy that was in prison. But once I got there, it was a plethora of other young Black men that was there. So that kind of like raised my curiosity. And I think I just went on a fact finding mission just by being studious and kept myself reading around individuals that can help me understand myself a little bit better, my emotions, and what I need to do while I was in that situation to kind of get out here and do the work. So I also realized that these things are not just happening by mistake. These things are most of the time systematic. We just not aware of that, and we just tend to fall into that system and end up in the situation like hundreds of thousands of other black men and now black women, because they're rising at an alarming rate in the penitentiary too. So,
So what would if you had to give some words of wisdom to some of the younger men and younger ladies that are out here today that were about the same age as you were when this situation occurred, what would you what kind of advice would you give them?
I would tell a lot of people. I tell most of my youngins these days. Were you still speaking?
No.
Yeah, I tell a lot of the youngins these days, man, find your purpose. And I know that might be kind of big for someone so young, but if you can't find your purpose, find what it is that you like to do, not what nobody else wants you to do when it comes to your passion, your convictions, and your own creativity. But also remind yourself that you have to have emotional intelligence. You got to learn how to regulate your emotions. A lot of our young black men don't have emotional intelligence, so we tend to fly off the handle because we don't know how to redirect that frustration, that anger, that pain, that hurt, or whatever we're going through. And we tend to redirect that into something negative, instead of using that and redirect it into purpose or a calling or something that can take them further in life. You grow through what you go through. It's not the end of the world. Things are going to happen. We just got to figure out what tools that we use to kind of navigate adversity that we find ourselves in. I also realized that a lot of our young guys are growing up without fathers. So I always tell them, man, go to a guidance counselor, get you a coach. When you go to that school, go to that guidance counselor and voice. You have a voice. We have to learn how to advocate for ourselves. A lot of us don't know how to advocate for ourselves. We'll suffer in silence, and then that silence sit there and fester into something else, and then we end up, acting out and doing whatever we do to get in the crazy situations that we be in. So I always tell people, find you a mentor, find you a coach, find you somebody that understands you, can relate to you and help you get to wherever you're striving to go. A lot of us start this journey, not just young guys. A lot of us start this journey and we don't know where we're going to go. We come from the same backgrounds, the same situations, but it's a few of us that choose to do something about it instead of letting that situation keep us down, press it, and, to the point where we can't do nothing. So I would tell guys, find a voice and also understand emotional intelligence, emotional regulations. Because once you know how to regulate your emotions, you tend to kind of get more things done for the better you, for your future self.
So what was the emotional toll of entering the prison system as a teenager?
Yeah, I think I became numb to a lot of things. I think I became numb to a lot of things. And when I did feel, it was more out of frustration and anger. Not towards nobody per se, but more so towards myself. Because I was the kid that always had a plan, even when I was a junior in high school and was out there in the street. I think when I first went through that process, I was kind of numb to the situation because I was in that phase like, I cannot believe that I'm here with 20 years and my thoughts and dreams of going to the military was so far window. And here I was striving to figure out how I'm going to get through this next 17 and a half, 18 years to get out here and start something new, which I didn't know what I was going to be doing at that time. But it was a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. But ultimately that I turned that into something that, problematic. I got in a lot of trouble because I didn't understand my emotions. I didn't know how to process my emotions. I didn't know how to compartmentalize my emotions. I didn't know how to actually understand the situation I was in to say to myself, hey, I'm here now. This is what I need to do to actually develop myself while I'm here so I can get out there and be a better version of myself. But it was definitely rough. It was definitely rough and confusing.
So,
yeah, for sure.
were there any mentors or figures inside who helped you reframe your purpose?
Yeah, for sure. Once you get back to the penitentiary, you know, you got all kind of gangs, all kind of religious movements, all type of organizations. But for whatever reason, whatever something to me, because it was a few that always, I just never forget two particular brothers. They wasn't too much older than me, maybe about 21, but they had them at that time. I think they had them been in prison about 3 years, 2 years, reading, reading their mind, actually understanding certain things that they didn't. These brothers stayed on me. They always, every time I came out the cell, what's up, little bro? What you on, little bro? They always created a conversation with me, I guess, to make me comfortable, so they can trust me, or I can trust them to actually get to what they wanted to do. But these two brothers was the building blocks to my change. These two brothers was the first brothers that actually built a habit of actually being studious when it comes to me, what I need to know, what I need to do when it comes to self. So, man, like, yeah, you definitely got some brothers that understand, they might have life sentence, 50 years, and they also understand that it's more brothers that's going to continuously come through that door every other day with the same type of sentence. And their mindset was, let's get to them before the gangs get to them, because they understood that once the gangs get to you, they was off. They couldn't no longer touch you no more. And they just so happened to get to me, and I built that brotherhood, that solidarity amongst us, and we just kept on studying, kept on actually building ourselves and stuff like that. So I fell into the right crowd of brothers. I didn't fall into that. Not to say that I didn't get in any trouble, but my main circle was brothers that was actually striving to do something with themselves once they got out of prison.
So do you are you in constant contact with these guys? I mean, are they out as well?
They are out. One of the brothers had 20 years, and he came down maybe 2 or 3 years before me. So he's home. He's actually driving trucks. He actually have like 3 or 4 trucks now. And the other one had 15 years, and he's home as well. And I haven't had any contact to him, but I speak on his name so much, because it's like I got to find this brother so I can personally like thank him, embrace him for sparking something into me that got me still going to this day beyond the bars. So yeah, I haven't been in contact with one of them, but I'm still in constant rotation with a few of them, actually, but just not those particular brothers.
So how did you maintain hope during those early years of incarceration?
I knew I was going. I knew I had a max out day. When I never forget when I went there. And first thing they're gonna ask you where you from. You tell them where you from. You tell them yeah or no if you don't bang. And once you tell them that, they're gonna send you where you from, where your home team at. Wherever your home team at, they're gonna say your homeboys over there. And once you get to your homeboys, they kind of some of them be on some BS, some of them don't. But for me, I just knew I was going home. I knew I had it. Once the guy said, he said, "Little homie, how much time you got?" I said, 20 years, man. I got a little minute. He was like, "Oh, man, you straight? How old you is?" I was like 18. I had just turned 18. He was like, "Oh, man, you good, bro." I'm like, "I'm good." I never forget that. I'm like, "What you mean I'm good with 20 years?" He's like, "Bro, I got 50 years, man. Like, I got 50 years, and my partner right here got 3 life sentences. So, you know what I mean? That little 20 years, you get away." But in my mind, I was like, "What? Like 20 years is good?" Like I could not fathom that. It took me like 3 years to fathom that my little 20 years at a maximum security prison was small compared to the guys that had 3, 40, 100 years, 50 years. Then I started understanding, like, bro, I'm short. I just said, man, I ain't got but a little time. I'll be out of here before you know it. So, but yeah, it definitely took me about 3 years to actually settle in and understand what I was going through before I actually started moving on, developing myself in certain spaces. But it was the guys that was around me that just had way more time than me that made me feel like I was going to be okay. And the fact that I was young, that was like, man, you started at 17, you get out when you're 35, man, you still young. But at that time, I was like, man, that's old, man. I'm going to be old, bro. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Like, how I'm 35. I just knew that was so much old back then. What?
So it sounds like, that culture is like all about tribalism. And so if it is about tribalism, how did you actually fit into that, being a younger person and a new person on the block?
I actually, when I got there, I wore this uniform, pardon me. I wore this uniform for the visual. You understand me? I need people to know that, like, I'm not the only one going through this. I will not be the only one that go through this, but it's to bring awareness to a problem that's going on in the society forever. And I think it's not spoken about enough. I don't wear this uniform because it always reminds me of my past. However, it's not about me. It's about the impact. It's about what I'm striving to do and save these young guys' lives before they travel the road that I travel. So I constantly wear it so they can see like, hey, you know, I done been to prison. It's not, but I just had to say that because I know I'm sitting here with this bright orange uniform. But yeah. But yeah. What was your question again before I start?
No, I was asking you, how did you maintain hope during those early years of incarceration? What role did education play in your transformation behind bars?
You said, how did I maintain hope during those early years of incarceration? And what role did education play while I was behind bars?
Yes.
Once I got around the homies and they had way more time than me, the hope that was there is the fact that I knew I was getting out. I didn't have life. I didn't have 50 years. I knew in my mid 30s I would be going home. So that was a glimmer of hope. Like, man, it's light at the end of this tunnel. I just gotta ground myself and do what I need to do to get through it by surviving at the time. But academics came when I was about 19. The guys I was around just loved to read. We couldn't come out to say. I remember I did not like to read. Let me say that. I did not like to read like most of us. They say if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. And that was me, because if it was in a book, I wasn't going to go get it. But they introduced reading to me. And it started out with just reading urban hood novels, things that I can relate to, the guns, the drugs, the robberies. So once I got hooked on that, I must have read so many Donald Goines, Tara Wood books. Oh, wow. But eventually somebody filtered, challenged me to read the autobiography of Malcolm X. And once I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, I ain't stopped reading since. That was the spark that made me want to go on a fact-finding mission to figure out why was so many black men incarcerated, why was so many black fathers, black brothers, black husbands incarcerated when we was a minority in this country. I couldn't understand that. Like, how are we a minority in this country, but we a majority in the prison system? So reading that autobiography by Max kind of helped me put things in perspective, shift my mindset that I can use to actually get me through this situation. So that was the hope right there. Malcolm X was the start of it all. He by reading his books and studying his speeches, it kind of took me down that rabbit hole. And I think he said, Malcolm said, the greatest reward for one's research is history. Because when you're researching and you going back in history, you tend to find things that you wasn't even looking for. And it's another puzzle piece added to the puzzle to make it make sense. So
with that, when you say you guys couldn't get out and you had to stay in your cell and you had to read books and so forth, when you actually got that autobiography of Malcolm X, did it when you first started to read that book and you got through the first 2 chapters of that book, did you start to understand the concepts and the knowledge and the wisdom that Alex Haley was writing in that book about Malcolm X as he observed him?
It's out at the back end. I'm not sure if I heard. Can you hear me?
I was asking you, when you started to read. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
It's dragged out. It's like you're.
Can you hear me?
Slurring. Like I can't really put together what you're saying. I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. What I was asking you is, when you got through the first 2 chapters of the book, the autobiography of Malcolm X, did you start to understand the philosophy, then the thinking of Malcolm X and the systemic issues of black that were facing black men and black people in general when it came to the justice system.
I'm gonna try to ride with you. Yes, for sure. I think the first two chapters, what was the beginning stages of me understanding something that I never saw. It kind of helped me understand that, man, first of all, I was like, how could this brother be at this height in life and have gone through this? Because I never knew that. I always heard about Malcolm X, but when I got to that book with Alex Haley and to hear him put in his own words of who he was prior to him cleaning himself up, it was a familiar feeling. It was a sense of connectivity. It was a sense of being. It was relative to me. So it was like, man, okay, this guy is actually going through a situation. Got in contact with some Muslim brothers that were while he was back there, and they put him on the debate, start reading the dictionary and these other books to help put what he was doing together to go out there and do what he was doing. But yeah, it was the knowledge and wisdom of Malcolm, man, that actually made way for me. I think Malcolm represents for me the like transformation, resilience, unapologetically truth telling. I think I got from him. He's the one that said that truth doesn't need no defense. It stand absolutely firm on its own. And also understanding that he taught that education and discipline can be the shift to change your life forever. And the more I read, the more I started realizing, like, hey, it's a mindset shift going on. It's a transformation going on. And I literally wanted to follow in his footsteps, if you will. I literally wanted to clean myself up and develop myself in a way where I can articulate myself, regardless of whom or what, without the emotions of anger, anxiety. You know, when you get in some of these conversations, sometimes it can go all over the place, but you still have to stand firm. I just love his poise. It was his poise.
So, can you share a moment when you realized you were destined for more?
Yes. In 2000, let's say 2014, they had a riot in the dorm. And after the riot, of course, we went lockdown for probably a few months. But I remember us coming back out when they let us back out the cell. People ain't forget. Some people went to lock up for stabbing. Some people went to the hospital for getting stabbed. But it was still also people that was involved in the riot still in the dorm. So as soon as we came off lockdown, they rioted again because they want to get back for what just happened 3 months prior. And I had a brother that come to me. He said, bro, he said, man, you always to yourself. But when I talk to you, man, you sharp, man. You make me want to read. You make me want to tighten up, bro. Like, why you ain't talking to these young guys, trying to get them to understand that they getting caught up in the system that's gonna keep them either in prison or they gonna end up losing their life or they gonna catch more times. You need to start getting into the ear of these young guys. And I was like, bro, man, them guys ain't gonna listen to me. He said, bro, everybody listen to you. You just don't do too much talking. But when I notice when you talk, people listen. And that was the moment that got me to thinking. And probably like a week later, I'll say about a month later, we took it upon ourselves to actually establish a movement. It was a grassroots movement called All Black Everything. And at that time, it was initially named All Black Everything because in our mindset, we was like, how can we get these brothers that's doing all this time to stop stabbing each other, stop robbing each other, stop fighting each other, stop, you know what I mean, doing all these things in the dorm. So we went to all the organizations, all the gangs, all the religious foundations, and we brought them together. And from that, we birthed All Black Everything, meaning I didn't care if you was a Muslim, Crip, folk, blood. But if you own righteousness, we started actually having schools. We had started calling them general civilization classes where we would pick a certain book and we would go to the bottom day room once a week and we would build on that one topic And the more and more I did it, the more guys started to coming into the day room to actually get educated, to actually hear me speak about certain things that they wasn't privy to. And that's what kind of did it. And before long, a lot of heads of the gangs used to make their young guys go through to my meeting or my session. If I was doing a session in the day room, most of the head figures of the gang used to tell their young guys it's mandatory that you go in there and pick up some of the game that I was putting down. So at that moment, I realized, like, hey, I'm going home to do the same thing. My voice need to be heard. The story need to be heard. And I want to give these guys somebody to relate to while they going through what they going through.
So how did your faith or spiritual beliefs evolve during that time?
I actually did not focus on that at the beginning. I did not focus on that. I was just wanting to be studious. You know, I had no said religious. I just wanted to be studious. I wanted to feel peace within myself. I think when I got towards the end that I started realizing that you got to cultivate your spirit too. Whether you cultivating your spirituality through religion, through a spiritual based system, or whatever, my spirituality needed to be cultivated in a way. And that's when I started like taking things serious. I remember stop eating meat. I went pescatarian for like 9 years because I wanted to clean my body. I wanted my blood to flow properly to my brain so I can have a natural process. I wanted to get in alignment with things that was bigger than me. And I felt that the only way I can do that is rid my body of certain foods, maintain my workout, and keep that foundation of grounding within my reach. So that's what did it for me. It was just me understanding that I needed to grow spiritually. I needed to have a better understanding because there are things that's bigger than me, that's outside of me, and I wanted to feel that connection with what was bigger than me.
Mm-hmm. So, what message do you have for young people facing similar crossroads?
You grow through what you go through. You can't let any given situation define you. You have to actually face that fire head on. And most of the time you come out of the fire refined, because that's what fire do. It refines you. And I would tell it because adversity is never going to go away. I don't care what you do. I don't care where you're at. Adversity strikes like a thief in the night, but you still have to maintain who you are in that moment so you can do what you got to do for you, your family, your children, and you're striving to do out of life. A lot of times we don't know how to navigate adversity. People go find themselves in a wicked or problematic situation. They end up projecting that same anger or that hurt and that frustration to people they're around or no. But most of the time, they got to do is sit still and go through the process by, calibrating your emotions, understanding what you can do in this moment to make it better, and controlling what you can, because everything is not in our control. Once you understand that, I think, and then make the process easier. It's okay to go through things, but what's not okay when you start projecting that anger and that frustration and that hurt on the world and the people around you. So you grow through what you go through.
So, and just thinking about an enormous amount of young men that are actually in that system, in the prison system, that is. It is like, I guess it seems like it's stereotypical that the majority of them come from underserved and marginalized communities. When you think about marginalized and underserved communities, what are some of the things that you think contribute to young men being in these kind of situations?
The lack of resources to provide for themselves and their family. We got to understand, like, when you are in poverty, most people that's in poverty, they develop the mindset of survival instincts. That's when your survival instincts kick in when you're in poverty, because you're already lacking resources. You're already lacking funds to take care of your family. You're already lacking certain things that you need to actually build yourself to get to where you're going. So most of the time we resort to that survival mindset. And when you develop that survival mindset, it turns into the criminal mindset, because you're doing whatever you got to do to survive. And when you're doing whatever you got to do to survive, you ultimately start doing crime. You understand me? So that's one thing that I noticed about marginalized, underserved communities. poverty breeds survival mindset. The survival mindset breeds criminality. Until we can make that mindset shift and get out of that poverty mindset, and then a lot of things have changed.
Because
But we all know environments trump intentions any day.
right. And so what I was just about to say is that because I think it's true to form when you talk about the lack of resources, and that's done with purpose. And so with that being in mind, I mean, like, what are some of the things that people that live in those communities should be able to do in order to combat that? Because do you feel like if people would actually think to more come together and to build and keep things in the community, that you can keep some of that down?
Yes, for sure. If you look at the word community itself, you got commune and you got unity. When we commune together, when we get together in unity, we need to be sharing our resources. We need to be sharing our networks. We need to be sharing everything that we have so we can unify amongst each other to actually do what we need to do, because we got everything that we need. A lot of times we just split. There's no unity in the community. There's no unity amongst us. So when there's no unity amongst us, everything that I get, I'm going to keep it to myself. Everything he want to keep it to himself, was further playing to that stereotype of the marginalized community. It's a dog. They say what they say. It's a dog eat dog world. It's only a dog eat dog world because nobody's sharing, nobody's caring, nobody's loving, nobody's actually coming up under the umbrella of community. So I would tell people, man, unify your household, reconcile the issues within your household, so that can bleed over into the next door neighbor, and then that can bleed over into the next door neighbor, and we can kind of actually get together and get some things done. That's what I strive to focus on now. After launching my program curriculum, that's what I did. I actually brought all the resources that put me into position in front of them. I brought it to a rec center so it can be visible, accessible, so them guys can get the things that they need while they're actually fighting to get out of their current situations. A lot of times the resources that's needed be there, but it's just not visible to our community. It's accessible to our community.
So how do you define resilience today, having lived through that experience?
Reason me is just having the mindset to push through regardless. I think one of our scholars said there's no growth without struggle. There's no growth without struggle. And everything that you sought out to do, my adversity, my struggle was getting through prison. And ultimately that's what gave me the resilience. But somebody else's struggle may be drug addiction. Somebody else's struggle may be prostitution. Somebody else's struggle might be anything else. But you gotta have that mindset to know that pushing through this can only make me better. You can only receive the lesson and the blessing once you get through the adversity that you're going through, and ultimately that what creates resilience. So resilience is just having the mindset to push forward, to build yourself forward regardless of what you're going through.
So let's transition over to your entrepreneurial journey, because I think this is what starts to elevate your story as to my understanding. So can you tell us what inspired you to become an entrepreneur after your release?
Constantly being told no, constantly being rejected, not having nobody understand what I was actually going through after doing 17 and a half years and still got 2 years of probation due. I didn't see the help that I needed. I couldn't find the way that I needed to be served. So I took it upon so I can fix that gap. I can bridge that gap and solve that problem, so I can actually provide people what I know they need, especially coming home out of prison, especially fighting and facing adversity. I understand that it's a mindset. I understand that it's tools that's needed to actually help these guys not only navigate after the adversity, but navigate through it. So I took it upon myself to create that. I just tend to serve. I realize now that I serve people in spaces where I wasn't served. And a quote that I got, I always say, adversity is the architect of one's purpose. Adversity is the architect. Once I went, it revealed my purpose to myself, and I got out here and seen another set of adversities. Then I got on another purpose, and it kind of helped me put together what I got now, which is my company, my consulting company.
Oh, wow. So how did your time in prison influence your business mindset?
I understood that where there's a need, there's money to be made. I think that in prison, anything you can hustle anything. I was selling coffee. I was selling whatever I can. I was envelopes. So I understood that once there is a need there, then money could have been made. But you know what I'm saying? So prison kind of helped me shape that mindset. Like if the guys, they used to sell tobacco on the canteen. And I was a guy that didn't really smoke tobacco. So what I would do every canteen day, I'd make sure I go get 5 boxes of top tobacco and hold on to them until about Thursday. Because we went to the store Monday, hold on to them Thursday. Everybody gonna smoke all their cigarettes. Now everybody need a cigarette. And here I come. Hey, I got a cigarette for you. Or, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Just understanding that you can literally take anything and actually market it in the right way to it become sellable. And you can kind of actually get what you need done.
What was your first venture?
Understanding the product that's needed.
What was your first venture and what did it teach you?
In prison, out here. What type of venture?
Well, are you speaking on? A business venture, whether it's in there or out here. What was the first venture and what did it teach you?
My first venture. Oh man. My first venture was actually completing my empowerment curriculum. The completion of my empowerment curriculum, which is a reentry, a 12-week program for reentry for at-risk youth. But it taught me that you can create the product to serve others. However, it's up to the person to take that product and make it work for them. Because a lot of times you can get in this space and you have this program, right? And we going through this program and guys get in this program. And some of them have that mindset like it's not helping me. Because they actually just going through what's on the black and the white. They're not actually taking what's on the black and into that or the information that they're getting and applying it to themselves. It taught me that a lot of people have resources readily at their hand, but it's still meaningless to them because they do not know how to work the resource or how to apply that resource to them in their current situation. And it also taught me that there's a difference between equality and equity.
Now, just as I think about this and, and if you could put this into context for us, it seems like, once you went into that confinement situation, is it fair to say that you, by being, surrounded by the positive people to keep you confident and secure, allowed you to actually use, what you knew from a knowledge-based perspective to enhance that, to allow you to get out and become this entrepreneur where everything that you're doing is just about the community base, but how you want people to not get into that situation, but also just what it means to be about community and oneself.
Yes, I would say definitely it enhanced it. It definitely enhanced the mission that I'm doing now. I had no idea what community literally was. I had no idea what marginalized community, underserved community was. I had no idea what any of these things was. But it wasn't until I got around these brothers that helped me develop myself in certain spaces that I started realizing that, it's a whole community that we just left. And for most of us, we was a detriment to that same community. For most of us, we was the one that was actually tearing down that same community. So in my mind, it was like, hey, I'm in prison. This dorm is my community. I started looking like the dormitory area was my community. So it was like I started doing what I'm doing now back there prior to I got here, which kind of sharpened me up enough to actually get out here and do what I'm doing now, just in the open world. Because everything that I'm doing now, I was doing there. It's just on a larger scale now.
Okay, there's a comment here by Ricky McElroy here in the chat. He says, I don't know if you want to respond to this or not, but I put it on the screen. He says, amen, no growth without struggle.
For sure. Yeah, we got to understand how to embrace your struggles. A lot of people run struggles. You will never learn the lesson. You run from your fears, you will never learn the lesson. You got to face adversity head on. You got to become literally one with that adversity in order to get what you need out of that. Because like they said, God don't put nothing on your shoulders that you can't handle. So if you're going through adversity, obviously God has something to do with that. So what is he trying to tell you? What is he trying to teach you? What is the lesson that he's trying to distill in you to help you tighten up before you lose your life, before you can't come back from that? So with that understanding, you just got to embrace it at all costs and say, you know what? I'm going to create something with this, and I'm going to do what I can while I'm in this adversity so I can come out strong.
So how do you build businesses that reflect your values and lived experiences?
Yeah, I play. First of all, it's all about partnerships and affiliations when it comes to this business. I just align myself with like-minded people with the same common cause and goal to actually impact at a high rate. So I actually just, it depends on what's needed. I go into a situation, see what's needed, because every organization, every educational institution, every detention center might need something that is different from the other. So I just go at it like that. What's the problem? How can I solve it? And is it in alignment with who I am and my purpose, my character, and the vision that I have? And we build from there.
So if you can tell us, what is the vision and the mission statement of your company?
Could you repeat that?
What is the vision and the mission of your company?
The vision is to impact at a higher level, not just locally where I'm at. The vision is to actually impact on a world scale, because we are not the only ones that's going through this situation currently. So my vision is to actually impact on a world scale. I actually get the story out there so we can make this clear to what we're going through when it comes to systematic incarceration, when it comes to emotional intelligence, when it comes to self. And my mission is, to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do accordingly in the will of God. Like, as long as I'm doing what I have to do accordingly in the will of God, I know that everything will work itself out. I just have to make sure that I'm in alignment with my higher self and him. So the mission and the vision is pretty simple. It's the work that need to be done. It's boots on the ground. So I don't know.
Yes. What challenges did you face re-entering society as a business leader?
The conviction itself, understanding that people knew I was a convicted felon. They wasn't sure if they can trust me. They wasn't sure if I will fall back into that recidivism rate. They actually didn't know what they was dealing with. It took some time to actually build accreditation form, and that just worked. You got to work. A lot of people think about their own business and being an entrepreneur and it's going to be sweet. No, you have to literally get out here, put in the work to build that platform so the people can see you being consistent. You see your story being authentic, and they also got to understand that your impact. If you don't have the impact, or if you can't fix a problem, or they can't trust you to fix the problem, then most of the time they won't pull you in. But it actually just took me doing a lot of free work, a lot of keynote speaking, a lot of facilitations, partnering with several nonprofit organizations, other businesses, educational institutions. And that's what kind of like helped me myself once I did the work, once I started. I'm in my 4th year doing what I'm doing. And now people kind of already know when I come around, they know what I'm about. They've been seeing it for the past 4 years. So it makes it easier. You just got to stay consistent. But the conviction, coming to a city that I'm not from, and the conviction on my record definitely was hard because nobody knows you. You don't have family here. Nobody knows you. It's like you got to start like literally from the ground up. And that was an issue, but I just never stopped. That was definitely a problem. I was definitely in my head a few times because I knew I was purpose to do great things, actually impact at a higher level. But sometimes people don't know who you are, don't know your story, and don't know if you actually who you say you are. So it kind of makes them weary.
So tell us this, because normally when folk come from, once they come back into society, and it seems like, for most people that's been in the system for a long time, it's like you hear this story that one, they can't find a job, they don't have skills to build or to do what you're doing, and that life itself is just tough when it comes to reentry and they just can't do it. It seems like you're dispelling that myth, because coming out and out of the prison system and being a successful entrepreneur and still building and growing and making the name for yourself and your brand. Why do you think people were saying that before, but it's just different with you?
A lot of times, people don't understand. Like, it is so hard to make that adjustment once you do the amount of time that I'm talking about. It is literally so hard to meet that adjustment, and most people in my situation give up on themselves. I just got to say it for what it is. Most people, it's things that's we already know is strategically planned for us to fail and go right back to the penitentiary. That's why the recidivism rate is so high. So with that being said, I just think that brothers discipline within themselves, or don't value themselves enough, or don't understand the skill set or the lived experience that they have, they can kind of let it change their whole trajectory in life. I hear a lot of brothers already having a defeat mindset, a distorted mindset. They telling themselves, man, I ain't gonna be able to do this. I'm a convicted felon. They telling themselves, man, I ain't gonna be able to do this. I just got out of jail. I don't tell myself those things. It's a mindset. I don't tell myself I can't do anything because of conviction on my record. I tell myself I'm gonna go harder. Because if you tell me no, I'm going somewhere else. I just gonna keep going until I actually create it on my own, or somebody open that door for me to actually get in there and get what I need. But it's extremely hard on the guys, man. I'm not gonna make it seem like it's all sweet, because a lot of guys don't have transportation. They don't have a foundation, a home, food to put on their back. A lot of guys don't have the things that they need to actually be successful out here. They just don't. And then they ultimately go back to the street because that's what they're familiar with. That's what they're used to. And that's what was easy for them. So when they get out here trying to do the right thing as a black man, for one, and for two, with a convicted felon, and for three, let alone let them have children, and they still got to provide. So it's so many things that goes into that recidivism percentage. They just don't have the help, or nobody can meet them where they're at. This is what I realize in this space. They'll say, we have resources for you. Come get them. But for me, that's not equity. Yeah, that's equality, saying it's equal resources for everybody. That's equality. But equity is actually meeting the guys where they're at. Everybody don't have transportation. Everybody don't have money to catch a bus. Everybody don't have family members that'll drop them off. Everybody, so sometimes you got to actually go to that community. That's why I tell my guys, you got a probation or parole officer. They work for you. You don't work for them. Don't go in there and just piss in the cup. You tell them exactly what you need and get them to, because they supposed to have every resource that you need to make sure you are adjusting as a civilian back into society. So you actually go in there with a plan and say, this is what I need you to do. I need TANF. I need food stamps. I need Medicaid. I need transportation. I want to continue my education. I need job. I need resume building. I need career readiness. I need, you know what I mean? Interview preparedness. So I actually tell my guys, man, go write you a list down of everything you need and take that to your parole or your probation officer, and they will get the resources that you need and to help you get there. If you don't have transportation, tell them that. They will get you a bus stipend because they have funds that's available for you. But most of the time, we'll go in there with a closed mouth and won't advocate for ourselves because all we think about, man, I got to piss in this cup. And now we gone. But you know, a lot of guys don't work their resources, and they probation and parole officers should be the one that they are working because they work for us. What do you need, sir? How can I help you? What are you dealing with? So yeah.
How do you define success beyond profit?
Oh man, success for me is being able to live out my purpose. Success for me is being able to resonate with that kid that didn't have a dad, or being able to resonate with that kid that might be about to go take his life or take another life. That's success for me. Knowing that I might have saved the life of another person. Knowing that I resonated or connected with that individual to the point where it made them think so they can fight and sit here and be here another day, not just for themselves, but for their family and their children. So impact is the biggest success for me. Outside of profit, it's the impact.
What advice do you give formerly incarcerated individuals who want to start a business?
Yeah, it's never too late. Get out your head and get in the game. Nobody will never know the skill set you possess unless you do something about it to introduce it to the world. You're going to get one no, you're going to get two no, you might get 10 no's, but you got to tell yourself yes. When the moment you tell yourself yes, the world will start opening up. The doors will start opening for you. So I would tell any convicted felon, anybody that's formerly incarcerated, get your skin thick and do what you need to do for self. Ain't nobody coming to save you. You got to save yourself. You actually got to get out your head and get in the game. Because for me, I didn't want to work at a plant job forever.
How do you use entrepreneurship as a tool for community healing?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I don't think I heard that one. How do I use entrepreneurship as a tool for community healing? That's a great question. I'm not sure if I even know how to answer that. Unless you want to open it up for me and give me a better understanding on what you're saying.
Well, I mean, it is okay. You as a business owner, and you are a man that's out there that's helping guys in reentry and the works that you do within the community. So using your entrepreneurship as an actual tool itself, how do you use that in community healing? How do you heal the community with that?
The freedom. I always talk about the freedom and flexibility that you have. Like, is that what you're saying?
No.
Yeah, it's the freedom and flexibility. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use entrepreneurship because a lot of guys, it's all about money, especially with our guys. They want that money. They always talking about money. I want that bag. I'm trying to run up that bag. So I always, when I go in these spaces, I also let them know, like, hey, I don't have a degree yet. I'm not retired. I didn't work 20 years on a job. I just got out of prison 5 years ago. So you have to look within yourself to figure out what can you do as an individual to kind of like leverage that so you can see more. You know what I mean? Because I tell them my experience. It's my lived experience that helped me leverage the entrepreneurial mindset. So I always lead with that, like letting them know, like, you have talents and gifts inside of you that you can actually kind of bring to the surface and kind of let the world know what you're doing. Like you gotta understand, like every the entrepreneur mindset ain't for everybody. Entrepreneurship ain't for everybody. It's kind of like almost it's kind of like almost saying that everybody can own a McDonald's. Everybody can't own a McDonald's because everybody don't know how to operate the McDonald's. So everybody don't know how to operate that entrepreneur mindset until they find out how they can solve the problems that with themselves, and then find the problems that they're dealing with community or anything they're trying to do. They just have to recognize, identify the problem so they can create a solution, and then they can start from there.
Wow. So,
and I want people to know that, man, you know. Mm-hmm.
So what's one project you're most proud of?
I spoke at North Carolina Central University. I just recently spoke at a 16th cohort to maybe about 80 freshmen. About a year ago. To me, that was one of the, because I that was the first time that I stood on stage at a university, a HBC university, with this jumpsuit on and had a chance to tell my story, give them some tools that they're going to need, even though their situation, their adversity was in prison, but they still going to go through adversity just matriculating through college. I think that was my most impactful, most thing that I'm proud of, being able to speak to those 60, 80 guys just turning 18, leaving the house of their moms, because I was so proud of them, because a lot of us ain't make it. A lot of us ain't make it. We got killed or we went to jail. And here these guys were at 18 years old, matriculating through college as a freshman. So it was like, that was one of the ones. It was to see all those young black men in those suits in the audience, knowing that they finna start their academic travels. I think that was like, that's what did it for me. It was like, man, that I love what I'm seeing. So yeah.
So how do you balance legacy building with day-to-day hustle?
I think these things are running in tandem. Every conversation, every client, every class, is legacy building. I take everything my class. I'm the one that's going to overly dialogue or communicate in the class, because every conversation is that much serious to me. And when I'm building my legacy, especially now that I got a 3-year-old son that's following me. So, and what was the other one? Legacy building
legacy building with day-to-day hustle.
Yeah. I think these things run in tandem, because my day-to-day hustle is actually in alignment with my purpose, and my purpose is in alignment with the legacy building. So I think these things are running in tandem. As I continue to embark on my journey, getting through college, scaling my company, and these things right here, I get to build my legacy so my son can follow in them footsteps. And at the same time, I actually get to it runs in tandem, brother. Like everything runs in tandem.
So can I ask you this? Is it safe to say that they're mutually exclusive, but they're different?
It's mutually exclusive. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely mutually exclusive, but a tad different.
But they're separate.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So what so just I want you to help me out here, because what I'm thinking in those terms is, you know, when you think about you're building a legacy, and let's just say with your company, and you're scaling it, and it's already on the foundation, but now it's going up. That's building the legacy. Okay. So when you're in your day-to-day hustle, you know, which are all the things that's outside of this legacy that's contributing to the legacy, but your actions out here are all the things that's matriculating to continue to build the legacy. So like how does that hustle that's outside of this contribute to your legacy?
How does the hustle contribute to legacy?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. So the hustle, the hustle is been going. The hustle is actually classes. The hustle is keeping this merch. The hustle is actually making sure the right institution, the right target audience. So everything that I do with the hustle and bustle is a direct funnel that's going to lead to the legacy. So is that what you asking? The hustle and bustle,
Yes,
to me, the hustle have to be in alignment with the legacy. It have to be, because if you out here every day hustling and doing what you need to do, everything that you're doing within that day must be a direct funnel that's going to lead right back to the legacy. That's the trailblaze.
Exactly.
The hustle and bustle is the trailblazing.
Right. So when you partner with these organizations, how do you decide which of these organizations that you're going to partner with or you're going to collaborate with in order to make all of this possible? How do you determine which ones you're going to work with?
I study. I go do my homework on any, or if an organization stands out to me, I do my homework to see the works that they already done on community, with their own nonprofit, whatever they doing. If it's in alignment with what I'm doing, that's when I out to strive to create the partnership or affiliation. But if it's just not in alignment, it's just not an alignment. And I also I'm also mindful of certain organizations wanting to connect with me because of my story and how it can propel them, and not the kids that we striving to impact. You understand what I'm saying? Because I've been in certain situations where people will befriend you because of your gift and your story, just so they can launch and just so they can do what they doing, but they ain't even trying to impact these kids. They ain't trying to impact what we need to do. They only trying to make their nonprofit or their educational institution look better. So, but if I detect that, right.
So let's transition over to your work as a community advocate. What does advocacy to you personally?
Advocacy means just being a voice for the voiceless. I think I said this several times throughout this process. We don't know how to advocate for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. So how do you engage
personally to actually be the
So how do you engage communities that have been historically marginalized?
Meet them where they're at. I'll go to a community. It depends on where I'm going. I'll dress according to that demographic. And I'm the guy that actually literally, I get to know the people, man. I don't, I know the council members, the mayor, and things of that. But I get to know the people. You got to put yourself out there. Like when you're a community advocate, you can't be a community advocate unless you know the community. You can't voice the needs of a community until you actually build that trust, that relationship with that community. So I'm the guy that's gonna go to that said community that we focus on, which we'll focus on 6 of them right now. That's gonna put myself out there at the rec centers. That's gonna go to the basketball courts. That's gonna go to the smoke shops and sit up there with the guy that's drinking or that's doing that, and actually engage in conversation to get comfortable, so I can get to the root of why I'm here. And that's like, how can I service you? How can I make what you're dealing with better, so we can actually take this to somebody that can come back and help us? So that's the way I do it. I actually go fishing, and I learned that method from Malcolm X as well. He called it fishing. You got to get back into the same communities that we escaped from, to get back out there and actually say, hey, brother, pick your brother up by the way arm and tell him, come on, I got you. What do you need? How can I help you? You know what I'm saying? But you got to bridge that gap. You got to build that relationship. You got to build that trust. You got to be authentic. You got to be transparent. They got to be able to feel you and connect with you. And I actually take those tools and to my community so I can hear what they need, so I can take it to the right people so we can get back to the community what they was missing.
So, what systemic barriers do you work to dismantle?
Housing. That's one of the things that in 2025 I still struggle with. Like every time I got to get another lease, they ask me if I'm a convicted felon. I'm like, what does that got to do with me living and having a roof over my head to be able to provide for me and mine? Adequate housing, job seeking, more job opportunities other than plant jobs, other than warehouse jobs. Those are the two main things right now because that's what I be dealing with.
So, do you think that that they just figure that most of these employers or people that that you're doing business with, that they just have that stigma of, you know, once a felon, always a felon, and do the very bare minimum for him or her?
Yes, that's exactly what's going on because in their mind, I don't understand what the numbers said because in their mind, most of them understand the percentage of the recidivism rate. So in their mind, it's like, oh, he going back to jail anyway. It's only a matter of time. That they literally have that mindset. I hired this guy in my company. I allow this guy to move into. He's either going to be in somebody's house, robbing somebody, or doing something to go back to jail. Or if I hire him at this job, he's not going to take it serious because he don't have professional development. He's not professional enough, and things like that. So yeah, for sure, that's the mindset of the people. Most people.
Mm. How do you build trust with youth and families impacted by incarceration?
Through my story, that's my connector piece right there. Once people realize, especially with justice impacting individuals, once people realize that you've been through what they've been through, but now they're looking at you thriving and being a servant leader, and in all these other spaces, it sparks in them a sense of relatability. It sparks in them a sense of, I like that. I wish I can do that. And a lot of times, like, bro, I want to do that. I hear that so much. I want to do that too. How did you get into that? So that's usually my connector piece, just being authentic, my authentic self, being because most spaces I go in, if I don't tell I've been to prison, they wouldn't even know. Most people wouldn't even know.
Mhm. So let's talk a little bit about your public speaking and your influence. What led you to the stage as a speaker?
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Eric Thomas. He's a motivational speaker now, ET, Eric Thomas. Can you hear me?
Mm-mm. Yes, I hear
So
you.
yeah, I ran into a guy named Eric Thomas via YouTube. And for me, I wasn't a talker. I was a shy kid growing up. I wasn't really too much of a talker. But the more I listened to ET, the more I realized it was something tugging at my spirit and my heart that needed to get out. And I always remember going in certain spaces, especially when I got out, going in certain spaces and they had people speaking but didn't have the lived experience. You had people trying to give the solution to the problem, but they didn't have the lived experience. Like they didn't go through that. And I saw it was like a urge, like I have to speak. I have to speak on this because if I close my throat, if I close my mouth, then the lived experience gonna go unnoticed, and then I won't be able to give somebody an actual tool that they need to get through it. So that's what led me to speak, is just understanding. So
Okay, you're back now. Can you hear me? Ladies and gentlemen, as you see, Casey is having some technical difficulties. And Casey?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
My camera was out for some reason. Oh wow. It's not a.
We're on the back. Go ahead.
It's not allowing me to pull my camera up. It's saying, "Wow, I can't block it."
It's okay. But let's just continue. We're on the back end here of this interview, and I'm sure we'll be able to have you back.
Do you want to continue or how?
Yes, sir. Let's continue. We're on the back end of the interview.
Okay.
So can you tell us, how do you prepare emotionally for sharing such a personal story?
You just went out. I heard you say how.
How do you prepare emotionally for sharing such a personal story?
Do whether I'm going on a stage, whether I'm about to facilitate a workshop,
Yes, sir.
whether I'm just going to do
Yes,
some
sir.
one-on. So I go through my breathing techniques to calm myself. I understand that I'm purpose to do it, and with that understanding, it kind of makes things a little bit lighter. Just got to breathe through it. Understand, you go through your process. Everybody got their own process on how they prepare for something like this. But I'm learning now to get to tell my story without shame, without guilt, because I know that somebody's going to hear this and it's going to make them think before they go out there and do something, or it's going to make them think uh, that they can do something about their current situation. So I always go through my breathing techniques. I always go through my grounding. I'm not sure if you know what grounding is. I take off my shoes and my socks and I go put my feet in the grass just to connect to the earth. And then I come back in and I'll be pretty much good to go. But I always tell myself, like, regardless of the embarrassment or the shame or what people may have to say, the impact and the purpose is bigger than that. So, I'll be okay. I'll be all right.
So, what's the most powerful reaction you've ever received from an audience?
The a standing ovation in the middle of the speech. I think that,
Oh,
like,
wow.
and when you
Okay.
speaking, and it depends on
Uh-huh.
what crowd I'm in front of. I might lead with my story, or I might come with a hook, tell a story, and then tell my story. And I think when I did it like that, I think it took the crowd back because the way I was dressed. I had a 3-piece suit on. I made sure I was groomed. I was well good before I got on the stage, and I went into just telling stories. I introduced myself. I threw a hook out there and just went to talk about a few things. And then towards the end, when I told them you are looking at a kid that was incarcerated at the age of 17 and sentenced to 20 years and only been home for 3 years, I think that threw everybody off because I got introduced as the business owner, the full-time student, the community advocate, the youth advocate, but nobody had knew it at that particular location that I was literally just getting out of prison 3 years ago with a 20-year sentence. And I think by that right there just kind of made everybody I had to literally stop what I was saying to let everybody calm down and sit on back down before I continued to go. But that was so heartfelt. That was heartfelt. I could have cried in that moment. It felt so good.
So, also, when I contacted you and I asked you, I was informing you that we do Black History 365. And I asked you who were the most influential person or persons in your life or career in Black history. You told me it was Malcolm X and Dr. Roderick Heath. So,
Right.
can you tell us why are Malcolm X and Dr. Roderick Heath the most influential figures in your life?
The fact that Malcolm was in the streets, he come from a poor family, and he left that family, and the fact that he was in the streets into doing drugs, robbing, burglary, doing all these things, and then he cleaned himself up. He got sentenced, and when he went to prison, he cleaned themselves up, and he came to reshape the world. He came to impact the world. That stood out to me because I was in them same situations. And all I could think of was like, man, that brother cleaned himself up to the point where he can get out here and impact at a high rate. So that's what did it. And Dr. Roger Heath is because I never knew that I can go to college. I never had seen a black man that I knew of that had a degree, a doctor at that. He was a black man. He didn't always wear suits and ties. He was dressed like me, saying like different tennis shoes and jeans. And seeing that, having that conversation with him, he made me realize that I had a chance in higher ed as well. So to see this man every other day on campus and understanding that the programs that he created and still running from one university to another, it was like, man, I got to do that because his impact is in a few universities that I done been to with him. So he's always that person I look to or I go to when I'm struggling or I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna get through this semester. I go to him because his story is similar. He just ain't go to jail, but he come from the same situations he come from. And I think I could say this because he don't mind saying it, but he always say, man, his mom smoked drugs to this day, used drugs to this day. His dad was never in his life. He still got regular stuff going on, but he still put his best foot forward. And out of all his family, he was the one that made it out. So it was like, man, like just talking to him just gave me that sense of peace to let me know I got to keep going because, the work got to get done.
What aspects of Malcolm X's philosophy resonate most with your journey?
His authenticity. Malcolm was one of the guys that I saw that he never changed who he was to fit the crowd or the people in the room. I never see him all the interviews that I watch, all the speeches that I listen to. I never seen him conform because of the people in the room or what politics or what somebody had to say about him. He was unapologetically him. And that right there is like, I pride myself on being unapologetically me, respectfully. I don't want to conform to somebody else's narrative. You understand what I'm saying? And I learned that from Malcolm, just not conforming to somebody else's narrative because they feel like you shouldn't say that. No, I'm not doing that. So, yeah, that's what did it with Malcolm.
How did Dr. Heath's teachings shape your understanding of Black identity?
One of the things is he always say that black men are needed in this collegiate realm, in this higher ed space. It's not enough black teachers. It's not enough black professors. It's not enough black men with degrees. So he always say that, man. So he keep me going with that. Like, we need you. He make me feel wanted. He lead with that message that every black boy and every black man have a voice, and we are needed, and we are needed for each other. So yeah, and that's what keep me going.
So, what do these men teach us about transformation and truth?
That you can thrive and strive through anything that you're going through. Just lead with your truth, not his truth, not somebody else's truth. You got to lead with your truth. And a lot of times our truth be ugly, and we don't want to hear it, and we don't want the world to see it. But you got to lead with your truth, regardless how ugly it is. So I would say that you got to lead with your truth, unapologetically, authentically you.
How do you incorporate their legacy into your work today?
The engagement part. I see these guys. Well, I've read with Malcolm how excellent he was at engaging the people. How excellent he was just talking to the individuals that still was stuck on that dope, that was still stuck gambling, that was still stuck doing drugs, that was still stuck doing whatever they was doing in that time. His engagement, his ability to adapt back to the people that he came from, and him still be successful in the Mazik and in the political realm, as well as Dr. Heath. Even though he's Dr. Heath, Dean of Students at Fayetteville State University, he's still amongst the people. He's still accessible. He's still relatable, and he's not too far removed to the point where you can't get to him. So I kind of incorporate that with me as well. Yeah, I incorporate those tools right there because they do it at a high rate, and I'm like, these guys is a little different, but they still accessible, they still relatable, they still connectors, and they still just engage at a high level, even though he's the dean of students, and even though Malcolm them transition, his impact still felt.
Well, can you tell us, what does Black historical literacy mean to you?
Black historical literacy mean everything for me. Without a knowledge itself, how can you truly begin to understand who you are and some of the traumas that you're dealing with now? Without a knowledge of your history, your culture, your customs, your traditions, you'll only end up accepting the customs and traditions of other people that don't align with you, and that leads to a state of confusion. So just Black history, Black literary, Black scholars, I resonate with all that because they understand who they are and where we belong at in this world. So yeah.
So, how do you pass on their lessons to the next generation?
I use that. I still pass. I strive to get brothers to read, man. I know a lot of, and we're in 2025, everything digital and audio now, but I still strive to get brothers to read books because it actually expand your vocabulary, actually help you with critical thinking. But I want people to understand that, all this not coming from me. Everything that I'm speaking, and I had to learn it from somebody else. And I also get them guys like who I learned it from, what book I read it out of, how I cross references, how I did, study other people, just trying to understand, me and myself. So I always just get guys to tell them to read, man. You got to know your history before you can know anybody else's history.
So, what parallels do you see between their struggles and your own?
Poverty, coming from marginalized communities. I had a dad, but he just wasn't present. These guys didn't have dads. That was what Malcolm did, but his dad died early in life, so he didn't have a dad for most part of his life. So certain things like that, those are the parallels. Both of them was in the streets, Both of them had did things that could have took their life away from them forever. Both of them, was partook in some type of drinking or some type of drug. So these are the things that kind of was like parallel to me that helped me say, hey man, I ain't the only one. And if these guys can do it, I know I can clean up and do it.
So how do you honor their legacy in your entrepreneurship and advocacy?
I usually keep a portrait of Malcolm X in the back of me, but I'm not home. I'm actually somewhere else. But I usually keep Malcolm in a portrait in the back of me, especially when I'm doing a Zoom, because I want people to see him. I want people to recognize that is Malcolm X, so they may intentionally ask or get into a deep dive about who his life story, who he is, and what he meant to me. And I also went as far as to put this man on my portrait of this man on my body. I got a tattoo of Malcolm on my body. That's how much that meant at that time when it came to my development. But with Miss Smith, with Mr. Smith, with Dr. Heath, I'm actually a prep coach for one of his programs, which is called the Matriculation Institute. So I just make sure that I carry out his vision and his mission, and execute it as much as I can amongst the student population as a prep coach that's working up under him for one of his programs.
So, final question. What's your vision for Black liberation in the next 20 years?
We educate. First and foremost, we educate. No, my method is I agitate at first, because you got to get the people attention. You got to agitate the mind. You got to kind of like keep throwing seeds out there, keep poking them. And once they turn around and see what you're doing, that's when you start educating. Once you start educating, you start to organize. Once you organize, you start to become mobilized. You start to mobilize. And then the liberation will happen on its own and naturally and organic. So we agitate to educate, we educate the organize, mobilize, we mobilize to organize, and we organize to liberate.
Wow. Okay. So, in closing, if you could just tell us what are some words of wisdom and encouragement that you have for our audience, and how they can how they can connect with you on your socials as well as your website.
I would say the greatest gift that one can discover is the gift of self. Once you discover who you are, what you are, and why you are, that's when you'll start to transition into another phase in life to actually get out and manifest your purpose at the highest level possible. So I would say, man, trust your process. Adversity build character. You grow through what you go through, and you can find me on Instagram at More Visions 25. You can find me on Facebook at Casey Moore, and you can find me on LinkedIn with Casey Gregg, and you can visit the website at CaseyGregg.com.
Well, I'd like to thank you for spending some time with us and having the opportunity to tell your story. And I definitely hope that we could have you back on the show. For those of you that are watching, this was a very impactful show where we actually have Mr. Casey Gregg actually telling us his story as to how things started and initiated for him, from the point of when he was a young adolescent and to where he is now as an adult male. He basically has given us the foundation as to how to re-enter your life after going through such a traumatic experience that he went through. In that process, I mean, I'm sure that you guys can follow those steps and procedures as he was putting those out, but also I suggest that you guys, anybody that's in that same situation or have been pretty close, that you guys actually reach out to Casey and try to connect and basically really get some better understanding, especially if you're having some of those struggles, as he mentioned earlier, in your life to where things are not right and you're probably on the wrong path. I think he's definitely got some things that he could tell you that can help to put you in the right place. For those of you that are watching on the YouTube channel, if you have not yet subscribed, I would appreciate if you would please subscribe, get the notifications, and please get to see all the shows live as they're happening, but also you'll be able to watch all of the other previous recorded shows. Thank you guys for spending this time with us tonight. We will see you guys tomorrow night, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on America in Black and White, where we are coloring conversations on America's canvas. I'm your host, Charles King, and we will see you guys tomorrow night. Thank you again, Casey. I appreciate you for your time.